Okay, guys, we're back. Finally, gonna do a video of one of my favorite Canadian YouTube guys. His name is Mark Mitchell, and he covers real estate in Canada and particularly like economy, mortgages, stuff like that. So I really like watching him because him, I think his name is Don Butler, the Angry Mortgage podcast guy. This guy, they're really knowledgeable about the economy in Canada, especially when it comes to real estate. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why is this AI guy talking about real estate? What does he know about real estate? And in all honesty, the only thing that I know about real estate is that it was something that was pressed onto my generation, literally our entire lives growing up. So, millennials say, hey, you got to get a job, or sorry, you got to get an education, you got to get a degree, you got to get a job, then you got to get a down payment on a house, and then you start a family. That was pretty much told to me every single day growing up by my parents, people around me. And so, you know, now being, approaching 40, I'm 37 years old, and seeing what's happened to all of those people who went down that path now, looking at their situations, I'm very fortunate or lucky that I was able to dodge the bullet. But at the same time, I want to make sure Canadians understand how much our economy is focused on real estate and why we need to sort of look at different ways to make money. Like the bottom line is, we need to look at different ways to make money in Canada, and relying on a rate cut or a housing market rebound is not the best advice I can give to Canadians. It would be to pick up technology, learn new skills, and bring yourself to the job market in a new way that's actually going to provide value. So instead of relying on your value of your house going up, try and figure out, hey, like, all this technology around me is booming across the world. What can I do to divert my focus on just my house to other things, where I can find stability financially instead of just relying on the Canadian housing market. So we're gonna see what Mr. Mitchell, Mark Mitchell, has to say about these rate cuts. Apparently, they're the last rate cuts that we're gonna get in Canada. What that means for the economy, we're gonna find out.
Thanks for clicking. The Bank of Canada could be done cutting interest rates. This was the messaging at this morning's press conference after the Bank of Canada cut interest rates again by 25 basis points. And yeah, the market did appear to believe the central bank, with bond yields, which dictate fixed mortgage rates, actually rising following the bank's announcement.
It's payday, boys.
Well, yeah, we'll no doubt see hundreds of TikToks following the announcement saying that since the Bank of Canada is done cutting interest rates, you better buy now as they're not getting any better. As usual, a bit of history and analysis could in fact be in order.
I can't do that.
Who can?
So what I want to do today is go over the bank's interest rate announcement, taking a look at the press conference held thereafter, where the governor addressed rate cuts, money printing, and the housing market, and then discuss some implications. We are coming down to the wire in the race for the Award for Excellence in Canadian Journalism, where we tally the number of rate cut questions the governor received in 2025, questions he never has and never will answer, awarding this trophy at the end of the year. Make sure you click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates. But for now, let's get into this policy announcement.
God
When it
damn
came time to
commercials.
take things to the next level,
I'm
I knew that I had to
I'm
make
really
a
gonna
website,
be
and
triggering
Wix
this.
was perfect for that.
Wait, hold on. Let's see what Wix has got to say.
I'm Josh Harmon. I'm a musician, I'm a content creator, and I'm a sound effects artist.
No way. I don't care. I'll see. That's the thing. YouTube knows. Like, I'll watch the commercials. I'll watch the ads. I'll click on ads too. Like, I'm bad. So they just keep firing them my way. I don't want to turn on the premium because I do like seeing the ads. And sometimes I do engage with them, but you guys don't like it. So decisions.
On to the bank's interest rate announcement, lowering the policy rate by another 25 basis points, citing ongoing weakness in the economy. The bank noted that while economic growth is expected to resume by the end of this year, it's expected to remain weak, coming in 1.5% lower than expected by the end of 2026. With that said, one thing that was abundantly clear in the press conference: uncertainty.
In trade uncertainty, there is an uncertainty, is considerable uncertainty, and the ongoing uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty.
I don't know. I don't friggin' know.
Now, the part that
Holy shit! Like, and it's so funny because the way he edits, like, or his editor, they're really good at making, some of the more abstract or sophisticated thoughts and just like postulations on real estate really simple. Like, I love how I think to myself, like, I have to get an editor who can do stuff like this, because it makes it a lot easier for you guys to understand on YouTube. And I'm like trying my best to figure out what you guys like. So if you have any suggestions or comments on, what you'd like to see in the videos, let me know. You, you really like when I'm showing how bad Canada is, but at the same time, I want to try and provide information to Canadians that will actually help them. And I really believe that, Mark, he's a genuine guy. Like, he's a real estate guy, he's a mortgage guy, but he tells it straight. And I really like YouTube people who do that, because it allows me to sort of share my, reality on it, and be truthful as much as I can, just because I'm getting a reflection of that through who I'm watching. So there's a bunch of Canadians that are doing really well with these YouTube videos. Like, I've learned so much from Canadians on real estate, mortgages, stuff like that. So I'm going to continue to show that. Hopefully, I'm the guy that Canadian that people learn AI from, but we'll see what happens. Like, the more I cover Canadians, the more I really feel like there's a little community of Canadian YouTubers that I sort of want to bring into peak demand and show off.
That's making the headlines. The bank did say that it thinks the current policy rate is at the right level to keep inflation at 2, while also helping the economy. The bank also said that that could change if the outlook changes. And just a quick note on that, a brief note before moving on to the press conference. In much the same manner as the bank wasn't going to acknowledge inflationary pressures back a few years ago when they told us interest rates would be low until 2023, as if they did, Canadians wouldn't have spent, they wouldn't have borrowed, which the Bank of Canada very much wanted them to do, even though the inflationary pressures were obvious if you were looking. If the bank actually thinks that the economy is going to be worse than they're disclosing, or that interest rates are in fact going to have to be lower, again, they're not going to say it, as that would induce Canadians to not borrow, not spend, as of yet, which is what the bank wants, supported by an offhanded remark from the governor at the press conference.
Well, if it's stronger than we forecast, great, but
in this time, unlike during the pandemic, they've left themselves an out, letting us know that if the outlook changes, if the economy is worse than they're projecting, they could resort to rate cuts again, which, a further weakening of the economy is not exactly out of the realm of possibility. Now, I don't know if the economy...
So you see that? It said something. It said Canada burns the bridge. Oh, shit. How am I going to find that?
...worse than they're projecting, they could resort to rate cuts again, which, a further weakening of the economy is not exactly out of...
Canada burned the bridges. U.S. ambassador doubts tariff deal feasible for New Year. And so, and even with, like, there's so many different factors that are going into our economy that Canadians are seemingly ignoring, disagreeing. And like, you might hate Trump. You might actually like hate Trump, what he stands for. You might hate his family. You might think he's an asshole. But the man has his hands around around the reins of our destiny here in this country right now. The tariffs, the trade war, it's all really, really hurting Canadians. So we have to ask ourselves: is it better to fight him and experience the friction or pain that comes with that, or is it better to work with him? And he might not even be a good guy, but he's powerful. Is it better to work with him and try and figure it out so that we can actually have some sort of semblance of stability in this country? And this is where we really got to look at our feelings and ask ourselves, do I need to feel good or do I need to pay the bills? That's where we're headed in Canada. It's like the world's changing super quick. People that you might not necessarily like have a lot of power. Are we going to be in our feelings, or are we like this is us being in our feelings right now? Canada burned bridges. Like, that's purely what I'm reading there is purely emotional. You don't need to do stuff like that. Like, if Carney or whoever is a prime minister, if they were just to play Trump's game, like South Korea just signed a deal. I seen they sign a deal. Even as much tension as there is between U.S. and China, what's his name, Xi Ping Zhang, or whatever his name is, he still knows he has to do with Trump. And I'm not like a Trump advocate or a Trump or anything like that. I just look at where power is centered and try to negotiate with that power. Sometimes I have the power, sometimes it's other entities. In this case, it's Trump. But I just see where the power is centered, and you negotiate with that center of power the best you can to make sure that all parties can walk away with noses clean. And we're not doing that right now. We're trying to play the game like we're elbows up, we're hard nosed, and it's not working out for us. And even the people who run the banks, like Tiff Macklin, he's just like, guys, we're up shit creek without a paddle. Let's do it, man.
The realm of possibility. Now, I don't know if the economy is going to be worse than the bank is projecting, but I've always found it useful to view these announcements through the lens of what the bank says versus what it wants, as the raison d'etre for these announcements is to affect behavior. And right now, the bank wants Canadians to borrow and spend, which they're not going to do. If they think the economy is going to worsen, they're going to save their money. And they're not going to spend, they're not going to borrow if they think interest rates are going to be better tomorrow. But that's just how I look at it.
At least that's the way I feel about it.
On to the press conference. First up, literally the first question of the conference.
Why are we not talking about more stimulus from the Bank of Canada?
And to answer that, the governor really didn't, just noting everything that monetary policy cannot do.
I mean, monetary policy can't target specific sectors. It can't target the hard-hit sectors, aluminum, steel, autos.
And just to show that that question...
And so, guys, this is where I need to chime in and have everyone pay attention a little bit if you're watching this. So what he's saying is very true, and that's because of the nature of our economy. Just so hear me out. Whenever they have stimulus in the States, like, oh, stimulus, we need stimulus, we need quantitative easing. When you hear quantitative easing, or when you hear things like turn on the printers, turn on the money printers. In the States, when they do that, it's essentially like the Iron Bank from Game of Thrones, just saying, hey guys, you know what? Here's some more gold coins. Go do shit with these coins. Go, I'm using the word coins, gold bars, gold nuggets. Take this gold, to take all these currencies, and go do stuff in the economy. That's the stimulus. Unfortunately, in Canada, the only thing that we can look at for our economy is houses. So we'd essentially be asking the government to invest into our real estate market to keep it propped up even more so than it is on the little stilts it's on. And hopefully that will stimulate the economy somehow. That doesn't work. When it happens in the States, they're buying stocks, they're buying crypto, they're buying gold bars, they're buying all sorts of shit in the marketplace, and you'll see the stock market start to rip. Again, I have to advise, if you're a Canadian, seriously consider investing in the US stock market, because when they do stuff like economic stimulus, your money goes up. The value of money goes down. Like you're able to buy less with your dollars, but your stocks go up. In Canada, we can't do that because all we have is exactly what he's saying: aluminum, like wood, shit that goes into houses.
It can't target the hard-hit sectors, aluminum, steel, autos.
And just to show that that question was ridiculous on its face, we already knew the answer. And here's how I know we already knew the answer.
Monetary policy can't change that. Monetary policy can't.
So again, like, it's very obvious that we're locked in. We have tunnel visioned ourselves. I have another video up with the talking about mortgages, but we've essentially tunnel visioned ourselves into being unable. We've tunnel visioned ourselves into being unable to stimulate other areas of the economy. That is like we're literally locked into a pathway that has to be overhauled, guys. And this is what a lot of Canadians are missing. Our real estate sector must change, guys. And it's going to hurt a lot. But it has to happen, because if it doesn't, then we're going to see the collapse of our only industry. And what does that mean for Canadians? That's a literal regression into a developing nation, because all we have is real estate.
policy can't.
Which is what we got today.
What can monetary policy do? Well, first of all, monetary policy, let me start with what it can't do.
And then, much to the chagrin of the Globe and Mail, I'm sure, Reuters stepped in to tie up the contest.
Governor, you have said that if the outlook materially changes, then you will respond. In your view, what is a material change? How will you define this material?
And that was all for the question on rate cuts. The Globe and Mail, Reuters, now neck and neck. I never really considered what we would do about a tie. Maybe we'll do some sort of vote. Any suggestions in the comments would help.
Give me it!
And then, following that nonsense, we actually got a fairly nuanced question from Bloomberg, followed by a very unnuanced answer coming from the Deputy Governor.
Hi, Governor. Deputy Governor Tony Gravel said that the bank is going to restart purchases of Treasury bills in the fourth quarter to get to the right level of settlement balances. Are your plans, do they remain the same, or are you waiting for more details from the budget?
And that's a decent question, with concerns growing over the amount of debt, the amount of money that the Canadian government is about to borrow, and the Bank of Canada set to buy up Treasury bills in the near future. Does the Bank of Canada plan on buying up more sooner? And then we get Rogers.
It is the fourth quarter. I'm going to turn to the Senior Deputy Governor.
I'm going to give you the same update I've given you at the last two press conferences, which is our plan hasn't changed. And if it changes, we would provide advance notice. We would be very transparent and upfront about that.
Well, and you're making me defend Bloomberg, which I don't overly appreciate. It's not an unreasonable question. The central bank had to inject money into the banks as late as a month ago. Bank reserves are getting low, and the government is about to borrow an awful lot of money. So is the bank going to be buying up marginally more debt?
You're talking shit. It's none of your business.
And then finally we got a really good question from Rob McClister, though I'm not exactly sure the realtors are going to see it that way.
Is there any meaningful risk that cutting rates today could reinvigorate real estate and cause inflation to remain stickier for longer?
This is, Mark, you're good. I like your editors, man. So, and you can see, like, it's all about real estate, guys. We are screwed, guys. The Canadian government is the only thing that they can do is give money to the banks to make sure the banks don't fail because they're holding all of these mortgages for real estate. We're talking trillions of dollars. So the Iron Bank of Canada has to go to the baby banks, the TDs, CIBCs, RBCs, and hey guys, you fucked up. You shouldn't have given all those loans to people who really should not have them. Like, let's get really serious, guys. If you're watching this, let's get serious. So here's a whole boatload of money. Try not to do it again, please. Bye now. That's all that's happening right now. There's no, we're going to invest in this, we're going to change this, we're going to do this. It's just propping up something that needs to come down. So if you're a Canadian, you're watching this, you're like, well, what's this guy's point? My point is we need to do different things here, guys. Like, look how much stress is happening on our country, our equivalent of the Iron Bank, in order to keep up real estate prices and for homes and condos that nobody in Canada wants to buy. Our sales are plummeting, guys. And the reasoning for that is, and I even look to myself, the sentiment behind the real estate market has shattered in Canada. The one thing that everyone thought was quite literally infallible, the sentiment of my house is going to increase in value as time passes. That sentiment is now shattered. And when people look at the real estate market, they're looking at the real estate market and saying, well, I don't have a guarantee that my house value is going to go up. The only reason why I would need to buy something is to accommodate my living space or my living quarters, or accommodate my family. And when you take the investing part or the speculative nature out of our real estate market, and you really take a look at like the true supply and demand forces that should power any market that's not influenced by extraneous forces like speculation, investors, stuff like that, then our prices have to come down to meet the buyers. And generally in Canada, buyers don't have any money. So that's why I really believe we're going to have a serious capitulation event in Canada. We're going to see real estate prices quite literally collapse as people look at their mortgage payment, look at what they're paying for, look at the marketplace and go, oh my God, I made a savage error. Like literally financially ruining their lives, a lot of people. They're going to have to make hard decisions. It's the only way. And I think the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklin and Co., they know that, and they don't want to be so willy-nilly on just cutting rates and seeing if we can pop up the market that shouldn't be up this high in the first place. I really do believe the powers that be are going to let this market deteriorate to a point where everyday Canadians can start buying houses. At least that's what I think they have to do.
And then, again, Rogers wasn't overly clear.
I think we don't specifically model what a rate cut is likely to do directly on housing activity.
Like immediately, housing. It's all housing, guys. It's like this whole country is rooted in our real estate, and it's screwed us so badly, guys. We need to do better.
We do see some pickup in housing activity in the forecast. You'll see it's in the NPR we published today.
I want to call your attention to an earth-shattering change that's
Here's the
happening in
AI
our society that I know you're aware of. AI. Are you using it?
So this is, and maybe I won't take off the ads. I get ads from Americans that are strictly AI all the time. All they do is talk about AI. Americans, when I'm watching the World Series, Blue Jays, what up? We're taking this home, baby. Let's go. I'm watching it on Fox. Americans are coming up. I see Idris Elba talking about AI. I see Matthew McConaughey talking about AI. It's all AI, guys. Everyone in the States is talking about AI. They're not talking about real estate. They're not talking about let's pump up our housing market. No one gives a shit. It's all about AI. Technology is booming. Money's getting thrown at AI like crazy. In Canada, we still talking about putting up bricks and painting wood. Like it's literally day and night, guys. So I'm really, really looking forward to, young Canadians. You're looking at this marketplace, you're looking at this economy and going, I cannot believe older people led us down this path. Yet you're going to really pivot towards something that's sustainable, because real estate's not it. If you're looking at a career path and you're thinking real estate in Canada, you got to get out now. Do something that's more meaningful. Do something that has a bigger effect on businesses, and you'll do well. Real estate's not going to affect the business. You get into commercial real estate, you're going to make one deal like every few years. You get into providing tech services for businesses, you're going to start to see work. Look at these guys. They're trying to teach people AI en masse.
But we'll watch it closely.
You don't think about what interest rate cuts are going to do to the housing market? Again, what they say versus what they want. Given that the bank has leaned on real estate in the past, my guess is the central bank does in fact monitor it. And then finally, I just want a quick note because we did get quite the question from the Toronto Star.
My question has two parts. So does the Bank of Canada still think that Canada will avoid a recession in 2025?
Do you read these things before you get on the phone call? I was halfway through the script when the question was asked, and I knew that the bank isn't projecting a recession, it's projecting weak economic growth, though expected to turn positive by the end of 2025.
With respect to recession, the second quarter was negative. Negative economy contracted 1.6% in the second quarter. Our outlook has growth resuming, but certainly in the second half of this year, we expect that growth to be very modest.
You're welcome here anytime.
So the bank has cut interest rates by 25 basis points. They are saying that this could be the end of the rate cuts during this cycle, though they have left the door open for more cuts if the economy weakens.
If the outlook changes materially, we're prepared to respond.
Again, not exactly out of the realm of possibility. We didn't get a whole lot of useful information at the press conference. We didn't get many useful questions either, and the ones that we did get were met with near contempt. Unlike a lot of the questions, from the ones to whom you grant the interviews, these were actually decent questions. And again, just to reiterate, watch what the bank says versus what they want. They want Canadians to borrow and spend. That's why they cut interest rates. If Canadians think more rate cuts are coming, if they think the economy is going to worsen, they're going to save, and they're not going to borrow. They're going to wait for that better interest rate. And the bank very well knows this. With all of that said, we will obviously continue to track how the economy plays out, and more importantly, the Bank of Canada's reaction to it on this channel. Make sure you click like and subscribe if you want to get those updates. But for now, thanks so much for watching.
So it's funny because, let me just get through this commercial. Jesus Christ. My God, these guys think we're doing well. So it's funny because the idea that, the Bank of Canada is looking at the economy and asking Canadians to start spending. Like, hey guys, like we need you to start spending money. We need you to start pumping up the economy because we're slowing, we're stagnating. So here's a rate cut. And Canadians are turning around and saying, well, if the economy's slowing and things are going down, we want another rate cut. We want another rate cut. It's like we're addicted to these rate cuts. The rate cuts aren't going to reverse our economy, guys, because Canadians are always going to be waiting for more rate cuts. And we're used to 0% rates, guys. So rate cuts aren't going to do it. We've had the best scenario for rate cuts ever in the history of this country. It blew up our real estate industry. A lot of people bought bags or holding the bag when they bought at the top of the market in 2022. So rate cuts aren't going to do it. We need a fundamental switch and a fundamental change in how we contribute to our GDP in this country. And that fundamental switch is going to come from investing into new industries, particularly the tech industry. Just to give you guys an idea, the gigawatt capacity of our current data centers in Canada is about 1.9, I think 1.9 gigawatts or something like that. 1.9 gigawatts. The States is planning for hundreds of gigawatts, hundreds, for their AI infrastructure. Literally Meta and US companies like OpenAI, Meta, Microsoft, they're building data centers in Canada that have like 3, 4, 5 gigawatts at a time. So our current gigawatt capacity for data centers, and just to give you an idea of scale, is not the capacity for gigawatts in our country in terms of tech power. We have 2 gigawatts. There are American companies coming in and installing 3, 4, 5 at a time, and they're going for hundreds. That's how far behind we are in the curve of other industries, particularly tech. And in America, tech is the industry that's pumping most money into their stock market. The Mag 7 retardedly strong. I don't know if I can say that word. 7 insanely strong companies are carrying their entire market. So if you have that super strong tech base and like the ability to have that fluidity through all the money going through tech in and out of businesses, it's really easy to be resilient as an economy. But it's not easy to be resilient if all your liquid is tied up in homes that are comprised of brick and wood. You even heard Tiff Macklin say, like, we don't invest in hard stuff like wood and steel and stuff like that. We buy bonds, we buy stocks, we buy stuff to stimulate the growth of companies so that they can hire people and do stuff. But the only companies that are powerful enough in Canada to do that stuff are real estate companies, guys. So the Iron Bank of Canada has to give money to the banks that are loaning out all this money for mortgages. And this is a problem because we can't do this forever. So if any of this stuff is catching on and you're starting to chime in or clue in on what's going on in Canada, I'm really happy. If you like this video, like and subscribe. But if you don't like this video, if you thought that what we were talking about pissed you off, think I'm an asshole, maybe you don't like Mark. I don't know how you can not like Mark. This guy's like one of the nicest guys who tells you the truth in a nice way. Like and subscribe his stuff. Am I subscribed? I think I'm subscribed. But if you want to leave a comment or dislike the video, go ahead. We want all your engagement. Like, I'm having to do videos on real estate just so I can point attention to the tech industry that's non-existent in this country. So I'm really looking forward to a time when Canadians start to wake up and think to themselves, how can I invest in tech? Go on to Wealthsimple, to open up a trading account for US and start to buy tech companies in the States. I'm telling you, your life will get better. Anyways, that's it for this one. I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm trying to keep these under half hour. That's great. But yeah, I'm trying to put together content for you guys that you can engage with, that you like. but I also want to make sure we're always paying attention. Hey, we're talking about real estate today, but that's because I want you to understand there's another world out there in tech. Go to chatgpt.com, ask ChatGPT all about it. It's going to tell you. Looking forward to the next one, guys. Bye now.